This is my third time compiling a best of year list for comics, and it never gets any easier. As if being forced to choose only 10 of the best comics of the last decade wasn't hard enough the other month, it seems as though with each passing year the medium just keeps managing to outdo itself. Writers, artists, and letterers are all turning in some truly magnificent work wherever they go, whether that be with more traditional outlets such as DC and Marvel, or with other publishers like newcomers TKO. It's been a great year, one filled to the brim with action and adventure, horror and suspense, conflict and loss, and in one of the biggest surprises of the year, genuine humor and wit. So nerds, you know the drill. I'm Ewan, this is What Culture Comics, and here are the greatest comics of 2019, or at least just 10 of them. Number 10. The Green Lantern, Grant Morrison and Liam Sharp. The Green Lantern is pure sci-fi spectacle and a typical Silver and Bronze Age love letter from writer Grant Morrison. The former Animal Man and Batman writer is this time joined by Liam Sharp, who turns in some of the most stunning images to have graced a GL comic in pretty much ever. It really is that beautiful. DC's GL books are also on the up as of late, with N.K. Jesman and Jamal Campbell's Far Sector also debuting to a really strong start. However, while Far Sector has only seen one issue published so far, and will likely reach its full potential in 2020, the Green Lantern has been leading the charge all year round, providing a cosmic odyssey replete with enough sci-fi silliness and heart to make even the most intrepid Hal Jordan critics, i.e. me, sit up and take notice. It's a true epic, and with Black Stars taking the series in a new direction, it's clear things are only going to get better. Number 9. Daredevil, Chip Zdarsky, Marco Cicchetto et al. With Daredevil, there's a general expectation that any new series will just inevitably be great. Consider the character's on-page history with the likes of Frank Miller, Ann Nesenti, Brian Bendis, Alex Maleev, and countless others having commanded lauded stints on the book, and that's understandable. But that doesn't mean readers should grow complacent. Penned alongside artists Marco Cicchetto, Lalit Kumar Sharma, and George Fawns, Chip Zdarsky's Daredevil takes the man without fear in a brilliant new direction, showcasing the consequences of vigilante violence as Matt Murdock struggles to reconcile his brand of heroics with his faith, and a city still in the thrall of Mayor Wilson Fisk. Also joining Murdock and Fisk as a main protagonist is Cole North, a former Chicago cop determined to take Daredevil down. Zdarsky's run is also punctuated by a series of stunning covers from artist Julian Tedesco, and as the most recent arc sees Murdock gear up to take on a new enemy, specifically New York's corrupt government and police force, it's showing no signs of stopping. Number 8. Sara, Garth Ennis, Steve Epting, and Elizabeth Breitweiser. If you hadn't gathered already that 2019 was a great year for comics, it also saw the introduction of TKO Studios. The new publisher, co-founded by writer and director Zhe Chun, is determined to change the way readers consume comics. The books can be read in a whole manner of shapes and sizes, and one of the best to emerge this year was Sara, written by Punisher alum Garth Ennis, with art from Steve Epting and Elizabeth Breitweiser. Sara revolves around an eponymous Soviet sniper tasked with taking the war to the Nazis on the Eastern Front, and it's simply sublime. Those familiar with Ennis's bibliography will also know this type of story is right up his street, with the writer having previously retold Frank Castle's origin in the Vietnam War during Punisher Max, while also writing World War II era fiction in both war stories and the adventures in the Rifle Brigade. Epting, too, is no stranger to war comics, having handled art duties on Ed Brubaker's seminal Captain America run in the late noughties. The point I'm getting at here is that both creators are really in their element, and Sara illustrates that perfectly. Ennis and Epting's comic also divests from old military cliches. The Soviet focus and the decision to spotlight the women-led snipers of the era works to the comic's benefit, providing something for those regular readers of World War II fiction, as well as those after something just new and different. Number 7. Spider-Man Life Story, Chip Zdarsky, Mark Bagley, and Frank DeMata. Chip Zdarsky has kept himself particularly busy this year. Daredevil was an obvious highlight, but the former spectacular Spider-Man writer hasn't just restricted himself to street-level Marvel. Zdarsky has been hard at work penning a great revival of The Invaders, while also bringing a new independent title, The White Trees, to Image Comics back in August. All have been great, but just like in 2017, Zdarsky's best comic this year is all about everyone's favorite friendly neighborhood web-slinger. With art from Spider-Man legend Mark Bagley, Spider-Man Life Story was Zdarsky Zdarsky's attempt to chronicle the life and times of Peter Parker in a reality free from Marvel's sliding timeline. He covers every era, from the time the Wallcrawler first emerged in the 1960s all the way up to the 2010s, reappraising the character's literary history whilst integrating it with each decade's respective zeitgeist. Life Story is a conscious effort to take Spider-Man as he would be in a world where he actually aged. In doing so, Zdarsky never once pulls his punches, with the comic exemplifying the tragedy and spirit that has defined the character's comics since his first appearance in 1962. Number 6. Superman Smashes the Klan, Gene Luen Yang and Gurihiru. As far as titles for comics go, they don't get much better than Superman Smashes the Klan. It's not in all caps, but you know, the added emphasis makes it even better. Plus, it's great to say out loud over and over again. The comic, written by Gene Luen Yang and with art from Gurihiru Studios, is a sublime entry in DC's new wave of comics geared towards younger readers. It also packs a salient message. That big Superman smashing white supremacist is great, actually, setting up the Man of Steel to take on the Ku Klux Klan in a reimagining of the famed 1946 serial that proved instrumental in humiliating the Klan during its post-war resurgence. It's a brilliant read and finds a new kind of relevance in 2019 by bringing Superman back to his roots, taking on real-life menaces that still sadly pervade across the United States and elsewhere. Number 5. Die, Kieran Gillen and Stephanie Hans. Kieran Gillen has had a tremendous decade in comics, and his most recent work is no exception. The Darth Vader and Young Avengers writer set his sights on a new series after concluding The Wicked and the Divine with artist Jamie McKelvey earlier this year. And with Dungeons & Dragons mounting a comeback, the comic in question, Die, couldn't have released at a better moment. Billed as a pitch-black fantasy where a group of 40-something adults have to deal with the returning unearthly horror they barely survived as teenage role-players, as well as a goth Jumanji by Gillen himself, Die is a gripping epic drawn to perfection by artist Stephanie Hans, and the perfect companion for fantasy and D&D lovers alike. At the time of writing, Image has published 10 issues of Die, and all of them have been frankly brilliant. He's hoping it maintains its momentum going into the next year. Number 4. Laura Dean Keeps Breaking Up With Me, Mariko Tamaki and Rosemary Valero O'Connell. Mariko Tamaki has been having an amazing couple of years. Whether she's writing the adventures of Laura and Gabby in X-23 or presiding over a new take on Harleen Quinzel in Harley Quinn Breaking Glass, Tamaki keeps on finding ways to craft some really brilliant stories. Her talent is arguably best represented in Laura Dean Keeps Breaking Up With Me, a first-second book's work centered around a queer romance that grows toxic. Tamaki is joined by artist Rosemary Valero O'Connell, who beautifully relays the story of Frederica Riley, the girl Laura Dean keeps breaking up with. The story itself is remarkably heartfelt and also full of wisdom. Within Laura Dean lies a really valuable message about love and how everyone deserves genuine, real, authentic love. It's occasionally painful, but the best coming-of-age romances typically are, and this one has added value in that its main protagonist is a young queer teen trying to navigate the perils of growing up. Number 3. Immortal Hulk, Al Ewing and Joe Bennett. Before 2019, most comics fans wouldn't have thought that a Hulk comic would be outpacing Batman in terms of sales, but that's exactly what Al Ewing and Joe Bennett's Immortal Hulk is doing right this instant. Sales themselves obviously aren't a useful metric to discern a given book's quality, but they do go some way in illustrating the phenomenon that is the Immortal Hulk. Ewing and Bennett's comic has become a sensation, and rightly so. What they've done has been to restore Stan Lee and Jack Kirby's character as a horror icon, injecting a healthy dose of atmosphere, dread, and suspense into a comic more reasonably defined by large-scale action than it was by psychological or physical terror. Of course, Immortal Hulk isn't without action. It's just of a different kind compared to what most fans may be used to. It's bloody and violent, and also constantly engaging, with Ewing throwing old J. Jaws up against a number of foes both of this world and not, all the while maintaining an introspective approach to the relationship between Banner's Jackal and the Hulk's hide. Number 2. House of X/Powers of 10, Jonathan Hickman, Pepe Larraz, and R.B. Silver. Before a little movie called The Avengers came around in 2012, the X-Men were largely considered to be Marvel's greatest ever super team. Sure, they lacked some of Marvel's more iconic characters, but there was no underestimating their popularity either on or off the page. Despite that popularity, the X-Men had been on a period of decline since the start of the decade. There were a myriad of reasons behind said decline, most of them to do with the right snafu surrounding the X-Men and Fox, but the point is that the X-Men deserved more. It was only when Jonathan Hickman was given the reins to reboot the series in 2019 that Marvel's Uncanny Group at long last announced their formal comeback. And what a comeback it was. Hickman worked the same magic he'd used on the Avengers years earlier and took the X-Men in a new direction, starting with House of X and Powers of 10. Central to the reboot was Moira McTaggart, whose mutant power of reincarnation fundamentally rewrote the X-Men's entire direction, inspiring Charles Xavier and Magneto to unite in a bid to avert mutant-kind's seemingly inevitable march towards extinction. The series was a true comics event, and one that boldly declared the X-Men's return. Boasting a genius mystery, gripping drama, and a wonderful usage of the mutant metaphor, Marvel's latest relaunch is one for the ages. And number 1, Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen, Matt Fraction, and Steve Lieber. Is there anything honestly better than a comic that makes you laugh? Like, not just a chuckle, but a full-on cackle. Because I don't think there is, not since I started reading Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen. Jimmy Olsen is just everything. Matt Fraction is as sharp as ever, while Steve Lieber's art is simply joyous. It's stunning to look at and frankly hilarious to read, as the duo take the classic Jimmy Olsen comic and bring it up to speed with a series of scathing hijinks that poke fun at both online content creation and DC Comics in general. It really does soothe the soul, and while tonally it couldn't be further from most of DC's current Superman ongoings, that only works to Jimmy's benefit all the more. Olsen stands out from the crowd for all the right reasons, combining humor and spectacle to impart something bizarre and wonderful all at once. All in all, Fraction and Lieber do something that few other books do by bringing laugh after laugh after laugh after laugh to the stands with each and every issue. What else could you possibly need?